Hello, everyone. My name is TJ, Assistant Professor at Virginia Tech. Today, I'd like to talk about our paper exploring the evolution of TLS certificate. This work, the main leading author is Farhan, but unfortunately, he was not able to join. This talk is about the PKIs in TLS. So as we know, PKI is the taking the central role of the security in TLS. PKI is responsible for securing internet traffic for a variety of common protocols, from emails to social network, and also website. The website, say Bank of America, have a pair of public and private key pairs, and it uses these keys to encrypt the traffic. However, in a browser perspective, there is no guarantee that this public key is actually from Bank of America. So Bank of America, to verify this key is actually from them, the public key is sent to a third-party authority called certificate authority, mainly trusted by the browser. And they, after some vetting process to make sure this website is actually owned by Bank of America, and it finally creates a certificate, says, hey, the owner of this public key is indeed from Bank of America, and hand it back to the website. So whenever the client browsers connects to the website through port 443, and the website gives back to them with the certificate, so that the browser can validate this certificate chain and validate whether this live certificate is ultimately signed by root certificate, one of the root certificate that they trust. Okay. So TLS is responsible for securing internet traffic, mainly in the major usage in the TLS is HTTPS. Okay. The motivation of a study is really simple. According to the one study conducted in 2016, based on IPv4 scanning, so basically scan all the IPv4 addresses and make a TLS indicate through port number 443. It collects all the certificate and analyze it, and turns out that 88% of them are actually invalid. Right? This was really interesting, because before that, lots of studies just assumed that focused on the valid certificate. And these invalid certificates have really interesting properties, such as expiration date is typically much longer than the valid ones, and 60% of invalid certificates only show up only once in a daily scan, which means if you encounter one certificate and if you like to take a look at the same certificate next day, you will never be able to find it because it just used ephemerally, right? And most of the certificates are served from transit access network, basically major ISPs, right? But the thing is, since 2016, this certificate ecosystem has been improved a lot. One of the major implementation was biggest improvement was done by certificate transparency law. So certificate transparency law is a public law, so that anybody can access to it. So these days, whenever CAs issue a certificate, it has to go to the register their certificate to the city log, so that the city logs can take a look at the validity of the certificate. And if it turns out valid, it gives a timestamp, which is called SCT, signed certificate timestamp, back to the CA, so that the CA can embed this information to the final certificate. So some browsers now rejects certificate without SCT. For example, Chrome and Safari now reject all certificates if they do not have any SCT information. And another one is free and automated CAs. Before early 2000, you have to pay CAs to get the certificate. But after, for example, Let's Encrypt and the lots of CAs that automated free CAs, it is free. And also you can get the certificate in an automated fashion from CAs, which is really cool. And also lots of new protocol extensions were proposed, CAAs and HSTS preload list and so on. Then how about now? Answering this question is from the high level. It is really simple. We can just get the bunch of certificates from IPv4 scanning and certificate transparency, and we can validate them. But the process itself was really notorious because validating nearly 4.5 billion certificates, it was not straightforward. So anyway, we did it, and we finally get the 3.59 billion unique certificates, and we used all root stores from Apple, Microsoft, and Mozilla and Android, and finally we found that 66% of them are invalid. So it is a good achievement from 88% of invalid certificates to 66%, but still we see a lot of invalid certificates. So here's the quick summary of this data set. Rapid7 is based on IPv4 scanning. So because of that, the IP address information is included in the data set, basically what IP address actually served this certificate. But this it doesn't have any domain name information to send through the SNI. So certificate that only can be provided through with the SNI not measured at all. However, CTLOs, it does not have any IP addresses information included, but the certificate have the number of certificate is much more because it just has all the certificate issued by CAs. So let's take a look at the validity first using IPv4 scanning dataset. So x-axis is the date, and first y-axis is the portion of valid certificate as well as the number of unique certificate. So when you see a green and a valid bar, you can see the increases of these certificates. And when you just simply divide this number to focus on the invalid portion, which is the red line, you can see the valid certificates portion is decreasing after 2018. Actually, this is the artifact of Rapid7 scanning interval, because before then the scanning interval was 1 week, but after 2018 it was 1 day. And as I briefly mentioned before, the majority of the invalid certificates can be shown in a 1 day, just one scan, which an ephemeral. So which means if you collected a 1 day scanning certificate, you will see much more invalid certificate. So what we did was we changed the interval. We only focus on the scanning of the data set, which interval is 1 week, which shows the correct, which shows in the blue line. So as you can tell, the blue line keeps increasing. So we see 60% of them are valid certificate, which was still 54% of them are invalid certificate. So let's take a look at why these are still so many invalid certificates out there. So we found that 50% of the invalid certificates are self-signed, and also 50% of the invalid certificates are issued to IP addresses, right? Not domain names. And 48% of them are issued to public IP address, so which can tell when you consider the fact that the certificates are from typically these invalid certificates are typically issued from the major ISPs, you can tell that these are from IoT devices, but we're going to focus on this perspective later. So 40% of them are issued to IP addresses, but still we see the majority of them are public IP addresses. And where are they hosted? When these five, the top level domain names are the most frequently used domain names for invalid certificate. Interestingly, .box, .nas, network attached storage domains are almost exclusively showed up in invalid domain names, and the routers from the FreeSpox, right? They still use self-signed certificate, which is aligned with the previous study in 2016, which means these devices are rarely updated. So which means if you bought these devices in 2016, the device is still issuing invalid certificates and ephemeral certificates every day. Okay? And as you can tell, local domain names is reserved for the future use by ITF. So the valid certificate cannot have this certificate, but still we see a lots of invalid certificates have this certificate. Still use these domains. Then where are they hosted? So we explored which ASs the certificates come from. So we obtain AS number from the IP address and use the KDAS AS classification dataset so that we can turn that AS type into 4 types. So there are 4 types: content, enterprise, other, and transit. So the first category is enterprise. As you can see, regardless of the certificate type, nearly 10% of them or 10% of certificates are from enterprise network. But when you see the content network, nearly 50% of valid certificates are served from CDNs. But as you can tell, only 10%, less than nearly 10% are from CDNs for the invalid certificate, which means when you focus on the transit access, the vast majority, nearly 80% of the invalid certificates are coming from residential networks. So which indicates that they are mostly routers or IoT devices. So using the city logs, we track the popularity of the CAs. So from 2013, 2021, we saw the lots of usages from Let's Encrypt and also the other 3 CAs, and they are, all of them are all for free and automated certificate. So the all other categories based on 2021 is significantly has been decreasing. And we also at the same time we collect it from 2020. Whenever we download the city logs in real time, we also look up the IP address of the certificate just to understand where this certificate is on the city log served from. And similar to the previous the graph, we found that more certificates, about 60 or 70 or 75% of the certificate started from the CDNs. So from our IP before scanning, it was nearly 50%. We see more certificates from the city logs that are served from the CDN, which is 75%. And also, as I mentioned before, SCTs are mandated in major browsers. So, well, we try to find out the SCTs in IPv4 scan. So if you focus on the red line, which is the valid certificate, nowadays, almost 100% of the valid certificates now have SCT, right? But interestingly, invalid certificates also have SCT, which is not making any sense, right? We found that 60% of this certificate share the exactly same SCT. 99% of them are from Fortinet. So what happened is Fortinet have a template of certificate, and for some reason they use this template with the SCT, and by changing the public key and the serial numbers and deploy the certificate to their devices, which is similar finding to a 2016, which show that some certificate have the same public key, same public key for millions of the devices, which imply that they must have some template. So still now some invalid certificates are from using from a template, but now this template also have the SCT information, which is funny. So here's the quick conclusion. Thanks to all efforts on TLS ecosystem, we can confirm that the web PKI ecosystem has been significantly improved. In 2016, it was 88%. There are 88% of invalid certificates out there, but now nearly 40%. Still, 40% of them are from IoT devices, and we couldn't find the actual kind of smoking guns, but we believe that these are from the IoT and the router devices that are not upgraded since then. They're still from, most of them are still from residential networks, and the reason why we see such a great improvement was because free and automated CAs that issue the certificate without intervention of the human efforts. All right, thank you so much, and I'm happy to take any questions.